The stories you're about to see are real. The rewards up to $5 million are real. This is Augusta Crime Stoppers, where you stay anonymous. The criminals don't. I'm Dave Michaels with Augusta Crime Stoppers Year in Review. 2014 began with Augusta ablaze. Officials are investigating last week's fire on Broad Street as arson, according to an incident report. Lieutenant Carlton Bradley said there are currently no suspects. The fire burned apartment buildings and businesses on Friday. Fire investigators are investigating to see if arson was the cause of that fire that destroyed the building. Officials say the point of origin was an apartment located on the third floor of the building. The owner of the building said that apartment was leased. Fire broke out Friday morning and it took firefighters hours to put it out. One person was rescued from the building and taken to the hospital. That person has since been released. The building's owner plans to prosecute.
Unsolved arson cases are starting to rack up as arsonists continue to set fire to buildings in Augusta. You may recall a building on Broad Street was set ablaze, which caused serious problems on Broad Street and almost killed one tenant. Now, fire investigators say yet another arson may have been committed on Goldenrod Street in Hyde Park. Firefighters say flames were shooting out the back of the home up to 30 to 40 feet in the air. And firefighters say this isn't the first time the neighborhood of Hyde Park has seen this kind of arson. Lieutenant Brown of the Richmond County Fire Department says the property on Goldenrod Street was vacant with no power going to the property. So fire officials are sifting through the damage to find out who or what started the fire, and they're thinking it's an arsonist.
In 2014, Augusta was hit with one of the worst ice storms in years that left most of the city without power, in some cases for days, even weeks. Last week, the CSRA was hit with the worst ice storm in years. The storm took down trees and branches all over town, but worse, it left 85% of the CSRA without power. That 85% included the offices of AugustaCrimeStoppers.org. That's the reason we didn't have a show last week. Because the storm tied up police dealing with traffic problems due to the storm, response time was slow and power failures left most burglar alarms useless. This made ideal conditions for burglars.
In the state of Georgia, you can now conceal carry pretty much anywhere. This is the governor of Georgia signing the Guns Everywhere bill into law. And this is House Bill 60, the Safe Carry Protection Act, but also dubbed the Guns Everywhere bill by some, allows concealed carry permit holders to carry firearms into bars, schools, churches, and certain government buildings under certain circumstances. Now, I definitely don't think that guns and alcohol mix, but if you can handle your firearm appropriately, also same thing when you go to school, you obviously don't want to cause any type of panic, but also if you have the proper concealment and you're not putting anybody in a state of alarm, you're not carrying in a measure calculated to cause alarm, hey, you know, that it's a free country, or at least it's supposed to be. And also you can go into government buildings. As you can go into the government building here in the state of Texas, you can go into the state capitol, but if you step onto the Texas Capitol grounds with your firearm exposed, Texas DPS will pretty much drag you to the ground and illegally arrest you. I've seen them do that 3-4 times personally. That's just the things that I've personally witnessed. But Georgia, they're going in the right direction. They're not like the state of New York, where they're saying that if your gun has certain cosmetic features, you cannot have it, or in the state of California where they're trying to ban firearms. They have ATF rating, people like Aries Armor. It's just gun grabbing going on all around, but definitely appreciate you guys in Georgia sticking up for your Second Amendment rights. And they say, well, that means people are going to carry all the time. There are plenty of people who don't carry their guns. There are possible many potential gun owners, people who actually have guns currently, and they leave their guns at home, they leave their guns in the car, so it doesn't mean everybody in the state is going to be carrying. There's many irrational fears, many anti-gun groups springing up to fight these type of measures. But yeah, Armed Society is a polite society. I've been to many gun shows, I've been to many gun stores. Nobody ever got shot. Nobody ever got hurt. And you bump into somebody and say, excuse me, sir, excuse me, miss. You go on about your business and everybody is okay.
We as Georgians believe in the right of the people to defend themselves, and therefore we believe in the Second Amendment. Throughout my career as a legislator, I have voted for, and as governor, I have signed legislation that protects the rights to keep and bear arms. It is a right that is ingrained in the very fabric of our nation.
A police shooting in Ferguson started race wars across the country.
Results of Michael Brown's autopsy are in, and given the series of events in the St. Louis area by Brown supporters and threats they have vowed to act, if Officer Darren Wilson isn't indicted for his murder, the St. Louis and Ferguson area should perhaps brace itself for more violence from the hands up, don't shoot Michael Brown devotees. After the shooting, Officer Darren Wilson said that Brown reached for his gun and fought him for control of it. Wilson suffered major damage to his face like a busted eye socket during his altercation in the fight for the gun. Fearing for his life, Wilson said he shot at Brown. Recent eyewitness testimony to the grand jury corroborated Wilson's claims. Now, the official autopsy report appears to do the same. Does a Crime Reports and Rewards special investigation reveal Eric Garner was killed because sheriffs are being dictated to by lawyers working for tax wasters to collect taxes and eliminate access to legal and health services? We, like the Founding Fathers, are being taxed to death and being criminalized by tax wasters who are making things like selling loose cigarettes, typing a letter, typesetting at printing companies, working as a secretary, or even suggesting you plead not guilty a crime. Now, one man, Eric Garner, is dead. Our Founding Fathers were so sick of the tea tax and the King of England's constant interference in their everyday lives that they dumped tea into the sea, which was a big deal to all those British Americans back then. Yet that same kind of stranglehold is what killed 43-year-old Eric Garner. A lot of Americans want to make his death into a race thing. However, it's clear that it's an access to the American dream thing. Tax wasters sicked the police on Eric Garner because tax wasters wanted every penny of taxable revenue from his sales of loose cigarettes, an act which cost Eric Garner his life. Lawyers who write the laws that create the taxes and set Americans at each other's throats hide behind the mask of government and attack your wallet and freedom from every angle to exact the last drop of blood and freedom they can to support their buying of votes and forming of cartels to protect their tax-wasting lifestyles. In a recent release on ExxonMobil's earnings, we saw they only earned about 5.5 cents for every gallon of gasoline and other petroleum products sold in the United States. But tax wasters in state and local governments collected 40 to 60 cents per gallon in taxes. The federal gasoline tax is the same from coast to coast. It had been 18.4 cents a gallon, which may be higher by the time this goes to air, which means any variations have been implemented by state and local governments. Several states are now headed to crossing the 70 cent per gallon threshold. Here's what happened in January 1st, 2014 to your taxes, not to mention you're being cut off from access to legal and health care. Top income brackets went from 35% to 39.6%. Top income payroll tax went from 37.4% to 52.2%. Capital gains taxes went from 15 to 28%. Dividend taxes went from 15% to 39.6%. Total taxes paid by some citizens in 2005 was 53.2%. total taxes paid by some U.S. citizens in 2013 was 58.5%. Now, we're not saying we don't want to pay taxes. Actually, we would love to pay taxes to be able to make more money in ways that we know we can make more money. But that would break the yoke of control government is trying to force down our throats. And this is what we object to.
The story ends on a sad note. The racial hatred ended up with the execution shooting of 2 New York City police officers.
Justice Department today announced a multinational effort to disrupt the Game Over Zeus botnet, a global network of infected victim computers used by cybercriminals to steal millions of dollars from business and consumers. In a separate action, U.S. and foreign law enforcement officials worked together to seize computer servers central to the malicious software or malware known as CryptoLocker, a form of ransomware that encrypts the files on a victim's computers until they pay a ransom. Victims of Game Over Zeus may use the following website created by DHS's Computer Emergency Readiness Team for assistance in removing the malware. That address is www.us-cert.gov/GameOverZeus. Game Over Zeus is the most effective botnet the FBI and our allies have ever attempted to disrupt, said FBI Executive Assistant Director Anderson. The efforts announced today are a direct result of the effective relationships we have with our partners in the private sector, international law enforcement, and within the U.S. government. The borderless, insidious nature of computer hacking and cyber theft requires us to be bold and imaginative, said U.S. Attorney Hickton. We take this action on behalf of hundreds of thousands of computer users who were unwittingly infected and victimized. An investigation identified the Game Over Zeus network as a common distribution mechanism for CryptoLocker. Unsolicited emails containing an infected file purported to be a voicemail or shipping confirmation are also widely used to distribute CryptoLocker. When opened, those attachments infect victims' computers. You may have received emails asking you to open a .zip file. If you have opened a .zip file, your computer may already be infected and your files could be locked or your bank accounts emptied at any moment. Game Over Zeus, also known as peer-to-peer Zeus, is an extremely sophisticated type of malware designed to steal banking and other credentials from the computers it infects. Unknown to their rightful owners, the infected computers are also secretly becoming part of a global network of compromised computers known as a botnet, a powerful online tool that cyber criminals can use for numerous criminal enterprises, besides stealing confidential information from the infected machines themselves. Game Over Zeus, which first emerged around September 2011, is the latest version of Zeus malware that it began appearing as early as 2007. Game Over Zeus decentralized peer-to-peer structure differentiates it from the earlier Zeus variants. Security researchers estimate that between 500,000 and 1 million computers worldwide are infected with Game Over Zeus, and that approximately 25% of the infected computers are located in the United States. The principal purpose of the botnet is to capture banking credentials from infected computers. Those credentials are then used to initiate or redirect wire transfers to accounts overseas that are controlled by cyber criminals. The FBI estimates that Game Over Zeus is responsible for more than $100 million in losses. The Game Over Zeus botnet operates silently on victims' computers by directing those computers to reach out to receive commands from other computers in the botnet and to funnel stolen banking credentials back to the criminals who control the botnet. In addition to the disruption operation against Game Over Zeus, the Justice Department led a separate multinational action to disrupt the malware known as CryptoLocker, which began appearing about September 2013 and is also a highly sophisticated malware that uses cryptographic key pairs to encrypt the computer files of its victims. Victims are forced to pay hundreds of dollars and often as much as $700 each or more to receive the key necessary to unlock their own files. If the victim does not pay the ransom, it is impossible to recover their files. Security researchers estimate that as of April 2014, CryptoLocker had infected more than 234,000 computers, with approximately half of those in the U.S. One estimate indicates that more than $27 million in ransom payments were made in just the first 2 months since CryptoLocker emerged. If your computer has been infected by this malware, please call Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or email or text your tips to tips@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org.
I'm Dave Michaels. For Augusta Crime Stoppers, we wish you a Happy New Year. And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
The Augusta Chronicle Weekly Crime Map database reports violent crimes during the past week included 98 assaults, 2 of which were classified as aggravated assaults. The most assaults, 16, occurred on Christmas Eve. Gee, I wonder why some people don't like Christmas. Other violent crimes during the week included 5 robberies, 3 of which occurred on December 22nd. If you know anything that can help solve the crimes that are unsolved, please call the police, Crime Stoppers, at 800-222-TIPS, or text your tips to tips@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, where you remain anonymous and get paid. Remember, you still have time to lower your tax bracket, fight crime, and even have a chance of getting your own money paid back to you as a reward by going to AugustaCrimeStoppers.org and clicking on the Donate button. Crime Stoppers is the largest, oldest police-founded crime-stopping entity in the world. Crime Stoppers here at Augusta pays out 100% of your donations to rewards and stopping crime. Augusta Crime Stoppers thanks you for your support during this year and wishes you a very happy New Year and reminds you that we are here working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you're thinking that nobody cares, Crime Stoppers does care. Go to our Facebook page, AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, like us, stay in touch, and you'll see Augusta Crime Stoppers really does care. God bless you, Augusta. Have a great 2015.
And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
Shoppers at Augusta Mall are reporting being threatened by urban youths who are ganging up in large numbers. Several malls throughout the U.S. have experienced fights, and they're saying that they're going to have a lot more fights in 2015. There are also reports of campaigns to kill a cop on New Year's night or New Year's Day. If you're aware of any of these flash, rob, mob, kill a cop crazy things going on, please call your police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and get paid. Yet another reason why some people may not be wild about Christmas. On December 24th, 2014, at approximately 12:45 a.m., a 34-year-old female was shot and robbed in the area of Sullivan Road and Edison Drive in College Park. She was with a male known only as Cash, whom she had recently met on a dating website, Badoo.com. Shortly after meeting the male in person for the first time, the male produced a handgun and instructed her to pull over and give him all her belongings. She complied but was shot in the face. He attempted to shoot her again as she fled. Cash fled with her 1999 black Jeep Cherokee, Rhode Island tag 3255569. If you have information about this shooting, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and unshot.
There's nothing creepy or sketchy about meeting somebody on an online dating site, but that doesn't mean that there's not creepy and sketchy people on the online dating sites. Here's a few things to look out for. Remember, there's no limit to how much somebody can lie. If a guy says he's 17, a lot of girls are like, well, he's, maybe 18 or 19. No, he could be 50. People lie, and they lie big. Also, don't give out too much of your personal information. A guy doesn't need your email, your address, your phone number, your Twitter handle, your Facebook page. Reel in the contact that someone can have. You never know where something's going to lead, and once you give someone that info, it can't be taken back. It's really important to listen to your gut and your instinct. If you get kind of a bad feeling about somebody or anything, a respectable guy isn't going to get mad that you want to postpone the meeting or maybe talk on the phone a little bit first or bring one of your friends along. A real man understands that it's important for a woman to feel safe. So don't be afraid to set limits and listen to your instinct, because if you don't and you're just so flattered that he's giving you attention, it might be the wrong kind of attention. He might have a van with a tiger airbrushed on the side of it. Is that a chance you want to take? I don't think so.
And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
The New York Post reports arrest plummet following execution of 2 cops. It's not a slowdown, it's a virtual work stoppage. New York Police Department traffic tickets and summonses for minor offenses have dropped off by a staggering 94% following the execution of 2 cops, as officers feel betrayed by the mayor and fear for their safety. The dramatic drop comes as Police Commissioner Bill Bratton and Mayor Bill de Blasio, also known as Big Bird, plan to hold an emergency summit on Tuesday with the heads of the 5 police unions to try to close the widening rift between cops and the administration. These unprecedented meetings are being held at the new police academy in Queens at 2 p.m. Angry union leaders have ordered drastic measures for their members since the December 20th assassinations of 2 New York Police Department cops in a patrol car while they were eating lunch, including that 2 units respond to every call. It has helped contribute to a nosedive in low-level policing, with overall arrests down 66% for the week starting December 22nd compared with the same period in 2013. Citations for traffic violations fell by 94% from 10,069 to 587 during that time frame. Summonses for low-level offenses like public drinking and urination also plunged 94% from 4,831 to 300. Even parking violations are way down, dropping by 92% from 14,699 to 1,241. Drug arrests by cops assigned to the New York Police Department's Organized Crime Bureau, which are part of the overall number, dropped by 84% from 382 to 63. The Post obtained the numbers hours after revealing that cops were turning a blind eye to some minor offenses and making arrests only when they have to, since the execution-style shootings of officers Rafael Ramos and Wenjin Liu. Crime Reports and Rewards just wanted to mention, we hope this doesn't backfire if the criminal element realizes that whenever a couple of cops get killed, the cops are going to do a slowdown, or they're not going to enforce a whole bunch of laws, and they're going to turn a blind eye to their activities. Organized crime, which we see they're not arresting organized crime figures anymore here much, not nearly as much as they were, that organized crime may put some fruitcake idiot up to killing a couple of cops when they have a huge crime spree they want to launch. So we sure hope that New York returns back to normal. Let's remember, it is the financial capital of the United States and really the world. So unfortunately, What happens in New York affects the entire world, no matter how we look at it. If you know of any kind of crime here in this area that is violent in nature and hurts anybody, with a victim and a complainant, please call your police or Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and stop crime. A woman's car was hit by gunfire on Christmas Eve at Club Rendezvous on Gordon Highway. She contacted a Richmond County Sheriff's deputy who examined the bullet holes and filed a report. If you know who or where this Club Rendezvous car shooter may be, please call the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS, or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and unshot.
And now, this Crime Stoppers special report.
Now, for a Crime Stoppers scammer alert. The letter you see on your screen came from a scammer who's scamming people on want ads. If you place something for sale on want ads, you may get an email like this. What the scammer's trying to do is send you a worthless check or money order or something that is so convincing that it will fool the bank and everyone who looks at it. Somehow or another, you're going to lose and the scammer is going to rip you off. When you get it, the scammer may say to pay for the item he's trying to buy and to send him the balance by sending you a larger check than what you're asking for on the item for sale. They'll send the check, bank check, money order, or some form of scam to you, then somehow you'll end up the loser. If you realize that you've gotten one of these, report it to the Internet Crime Bureau at www.ic3.gov. Then call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to tips at AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, where you remain anonymous and don't get scammed. An Atlanta man, Antonio Macklin, was murdered recently. The reward for that suspect that killed Antonio Macklin is up to $4,500. Macklin was gunned down near Haynes Circle in Snellville, outside of Atlanta, on May 20th, 2014. After speaking with witnesses, police believe robbery was the motive. Because so many people from Augusta travel to Atlanta and back and forth, the murderer may be from here, or the murderer or murderers could be hiding here since we're on a border town on a river where they can hop over the river and make it very difficult on police to apprehend them. If you think you know who murdered Antonio Macklin, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to tips at AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, where you remain anonymous and get paid.
Augusta Crime Stoppers is brought to you by WBEK Channel 16 and Augusta Crime Stoppers. You too could be a Crime Stopper. If you have any information on any crime, call our tip line at 1-800-222-TIPS. Augusta Crime Stoppers is a production of Michael's Media. Augusta Crime Stoppers, where you stay anonymous. The criminals don't.